Hi, I'm Evilise Page, and thanks for listening to the Believe Big podcast, the show where we take a deep dive into your healing with health experts, integrative practitioners, biblical faith leaders, and cancer thrivers from around the globe. Welcome to today's episode on the Believe Big podcast. My name is Evilise Page, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. I am very excited about today's podcast guest, Dr. Judy Jasek, an integrative veterinarian. Over the years, we have gotten many questions about pet health and mistletoe, and we thought we would connect with Dr. Jasek about making sure our pets are well taken care of. Dr. Judy graduated from Colorado State University with degrees in zoology and veterinary medicine in 1988. After founding and transforming a conventional clinic into an integrative medicine practice in Colorado, she sold the practice in 2015. With over 35 years of experience, Dr. Judy now practices on a smaller scale, utilizing telemedicine globally. Her holistic approach focuses on supporting pets' natural healing abilities through nutrition, supplementation, and detoxification, forgoing quick fix solutions. She specializes in alternative cancer treatments like ozone and mistletoe, and she continues to innovate in veterinary care. Recently, relocating to Tennessee with her husband to start a rural homestead, Dr. Judy finds joy in nurturing animals like her German Shepherd puppy, Rex. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jasek.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm grateful to be able to spread the word to more people about how to keep our pets healthy.
Well, we are so excited that you're here, and I have so many questions for you. But before we begin, I know our listeners are always wanting to know what our guest's favorite health tip is. So you can share a personal health tip, or you can share one that you give for your pets.
I'd say it's the same. It's good nutrition. We have to feed the body properly. Like I was saying before the show, I think a lot of why cancer shows up is toxicity, and we live in a toxic world. So the better we can support the body, whether it's our bodies or our pet bodies, through appropriate nutrition, the better chance we have of the body handling its toxic load that it's exposed to.
100%. You know, we always hear and say that food is medicine. And so that is a great health tip for sure. So can you explain what integrative medicine and veterinary care entails and how it differs from conventional practices?
I think it really starts with the mindset and how we look at disease or symptoms. If we look at disease or symptoms as something we have to fight, or there's an invader in the body, then we're left with symptomatic treatments or treatments that attack things like antibiotics in the case of cancer, chemotherapy, radiation. We're just like in an attack mode. My approach is more about, I look at the terrain of the pet and how do we support the natural healing ability of the body, because health is the natural state of the body. Ours, pets, nature has it down, right? Nature knows how to be healthy. Our bodies want to be healthy. And unfortunately, conventional medicine, I think for the most part, gets in the way of that. In short term, for emergencies, yeah, it's great. You know, your pet gets hit by a car, gets a cut, gets a broken leg, absolutely go to the ER, get fixed. But for any type of chronic illness, including cancer, we have to be taking a different approach to health. And that is looking at how do we support the natural healing ability of the body.
So what inspired you to transition from conventional practice to an integrative medicine practice?
I just didn't see it working. I was trained conventionally like every other vet, and we'd be now about 8 or 10 years out of school, and we're quite indoctrinated. I didn't call it education anymore. I call it indoctrination. I didn't see it back then. I see it very clearly now. But you're tied to what you learned. It's kind of, you haven't been out in the real world very much. I was in school practically my whole life up until that point. But then I just look at my patients like, this is it. This is all we can do. And for all the supposed medical advances, pets were not getting better overall. They were getting sicker. And I just felt like as becoming a pawn of the pharmaceutical industry. You know, the pharmaceutical rep comes in and they buy the practice lunch and they tell you their latest, they pull out the latest bag of tricks, whether it's new vaccines or new pharmaceuticals, and they teach you how to sell them based on fear. Like, what can you make your clients afraid of to sell these products? And then, of course, how much money you can make selling them. And that's the way it's done. And I'm pretty sure it's similar in human medicine as well. And I just thought, this isn't practice. This isn't healing. This isn't why I got into this profession. I'm just a drug peddler. And so that just wasn't sitting well with me. But then there was a rather large learning curve after that. But like I said before, it's the mindset. Once you change how you look at practice, then you seek those avenues. And, you know, it's when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And when you're open to taking in new information, then you learn about resources. So I started learning about herbal medicine, homeopathy, more about nutrition. You know, in vet school, where you just taught to sell the hills, typical prescription diets. Now I don't recommend anything but fresh food diet, ideally raw, big component of raw feeding for dogs and cats.
Yeah. So are there any food brands in the dry food industry that you think are healthy for, say, dogs, for example? Or is there an affordable raw food option that you have found?
Nothing in the kibble industry would I consider healthy. They're all about 50% processed carbohydrates, all of them, no matter what their claims are, no matter how healthy they say they are. The quote-unquote prescription diets that you buy at the vet are just as bad. If you actually read the ingredients, you may as well just go down to the grocery store and buy a bag of Krina because it's about the same. That's the just scam, the whole prescription diet thing. It needs to be fresh food feeding. And is it more expensive than buying your cheap kibble? Sure. What's the cost of your pet's health? You know, what is that worth to you? And if you think buying your food is expensive, try treating cancer. And not to mention the heartache. To me, it's a very worthwhile investment. If you think about the vet bills you're going to save and just a heartache. You don't want to watch your pet even have chronic itchy skin or chronic ear infections or chewing at their feet, all these inflammatory signs we see, let alone cancer. And the diet is by far the majority of any cancer patients that I see coming in have been on a kibble diet and on the typical vaccine schedule. I do think the vaccines play a big role, especially in young pets getting cancer, but then over time, not getting proper nutrition is huge. And we actually have an awesome nutritionist working with us in our practice. Anybody can come in. They don't have to work with me directly. My consults are more expensive. Anybody can get a nutrition consult for $65, and she will help you put together a plan. She really knows the industry. She owns a natural pet food store here in Tennessee. And so she knows the pet food brands actually way better than I do because just don't have the time to keep up on all that, but she's in that business. So she can actually help walk you through getting the most affordable diet and species appropriate and well-balanced diet for your pet.
That's amazing. I'm going to definitely call her and connect with her. And we'll also put your contact information in our show notes for anyone else who's interested in making sure that their pet is on the right foods. I agree 100%. Just like with ourselves, people say, oh, eating organic is expensive. Well, so is a sickness. And so, if you're not able to eat all organic, then avoid the dirty dozen, So we share tips with people on ways that you can affordably eat well. And so I'm sure the same is for our pets. And I'm so glad that you mentioned about the vaccine schedule. We have a puppy that's a year old now, and they just wanted to give him everything. And I just said, listen, he's just such a little guy. Like, I don't want to infuse his body with so much, just like I would with my kids. I'd be very careful with what I gave them and when, and the schedules now that they give them so many more vaccines than in the past. So my puppy right now has just the one required by law, which is the rabies. But how do you work with vets? Because like you said, really intimidate people, or they say you have to get these done or I'll drop you as a patient. And so how does one find a vet that can really be gentler on the puppies or even just on your dogs themselves, with this vaccine schedule? What advice would you have for individuals?
It's become a really tough one, and it's gotten so much worse after COVID. Vets have always recommended the vaccines, but they didn't require them to walk in the door like they're doing now. And I actually put together a webinar on rabies, which I'd be happy to send you if you want to post it on your site, because I get into the whole veterinary narrative and basically punch holes in it and just invalidate their claims that they need to do it for safety. Things such as, they'll say, well, I have to protect my staff, so your pet needs to be vaccinated against rabies. Well, even if you believe, I personally believe the whole rabies thing is just a big fallacy, but say you believe there's actually a rabies virus and this vaccine is protective. Well, it's not protective instantly. It would still take a couple of weeks. So the fact that they just want to vaccinate your pet on the way in the door it doesn't even make sense from a safety perspective. And it also goes against the actual inserts. In my webinar, I cite the actual package inserts from some of the vaccine manufacturers that say it should only be given to healthy animals. If the animal is not healthy, then they can't guarantee the response to the vaccine. So they're actually going against even the manufacturers. It's just become so ubiquitous and everybody's doing it. So there are very few choices. More people need to push back. I don't have any faith that the vets are going to change at all. I think it's going to be enough people pushing back. One or two crazy clients, they'll just send them on their way. But if enough people push back, I'm actually looking into approaching legislatures here in Tennessee because there's so much evidence now that viruses have never been isolated. And I'm actually working with some people and have a lot of good evidence that, I've gone back to the times in Louis Pasteur where the whole rabies narrative actually started. No evidence whatsoever that virus was ever found. It was basically a made-up narrative. And I would like to make an attempt to take that to the legislature here in Tennessee and see if we can actually change laws. It's a Class C misdemeanor here in Tennessee to harbor a pet without a current rabies shot. And I would suggest if people really want to change, it comes down to us. The vets aren't going to change. Yes, you can push back at your vet's office. And in the short term, have an honest conversation with your vet. Say, hey, I don't want to do this. Will you work with me or do I take my business elsewhere? You can ask about titer testing, which is where you just measure antibody level. And if there's adequate antibodies, theoretically, the pet should not need a vaccination. So if they would accept an antibody level or titer test, then that might get you around the vaccinations. Some places, like I practiced in Colorado for many years, they actually had a medical exemption for rabies. It was a state form, so I could write those. The local vets may or may not accept them. Sadly, it's come down to the point I tell people don't go in for wellness exams. You need to take responsibility for your pet's health, just like you need to take responsibility for your own health. And know when your pet's ill, if your pet's ill. And it's going into the wellness exams that you're going to get pushed, the vaccines, the heartworm, flea and tick, all these medications. Clinics make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year selling that stuff. And it really is just a money game. So don't go in. Just don't go in. If your pet's sick, your pet is seriously sick, like you're really concerned, bleeding, it's hurt, go to the emergency clinics, because the emergency clinics are not as plugged into that whole wellness thing. And I think in most all cases, you could go in and say, hey, look, I got another vet I work with on the vaccines. If they even ask, from what I hear, the ERs don't tend to ask because they're not, that's not their business model. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. They're there just to take care of your pets on an emergency basis. Just say, and another vet I work with on those vaccines if they ask, and don't go into the vet for wellness care.
That's really great advice. I was excited to hear that you use mistletoe therapy in your practice. That's something that we really appreciate. We work with integrative practitioners on the human side all over the country, really helping people to integrate that into their care. So can you talk a little bit more about cancer in dogs specifically and how mistletoe helps them?
Mistletoe is amazing. I started using mistletoe probably 6 or 7 years ago after a client asked me about it, and I hadn't really heard about using it therapeutically for cancer. But I was able to find another veterinarian in Florida that was using it, and he was kind enough to share his protocols with me. And I have found I was already seeing a lot of cancer patients because I was doing natural therapies and a lot of ozone therapy, which I also use. But adding mistletoe in, I feel like really helped with the more aggressive cancers. I mean, everything it's a big variable and we can never predict outcomes, right? We never know what's going to happen. Sometimes I start working with the cancer patient, they're pretty far down the road and we've got a lot of catch up to do. But I would say overall, without a doubt, that adding mistletoe in has improved treatment results and improved quality of life. I know humans report that they feel better on mistletoe and even emotionally, which is hard to evaluate in our pets. And I think it's important that they feel more optimistic, more hopeful. And I found with pets, sometimes it helps increase their appetite. Certainly with the discomfort, like the tumors, because it can shrink tumors. And I look at cancer, yes, it's great if we can make it completely go away, but oftentimes that's not realistic. And I look at it, can we make it manageable? Can we control it to the point that the pet can still live a good quality of life? And that's not always possible, but I think adding in things like mistletoe, it becomes much more possible.
That's amazing. And you mentioned ozone. Explain to our listeners what ozone therapy is. Many people may not even understand what that is.
Yeah, and it's great too because it's something else people can do at home. Like when I do mistletoe therapy, I send people the supplies and just teach them how to do the injections at home so she can stay in the vet's office. But so ozone is O3. So the oxygen in the air that we breathe is two oxygen atoms. Ozone's O3. So that third oxygen atom makes it very reactive, which makes it very effective at both oxygenating tissues in the body and helping the cells to use oxygen more efficiently. And all disease states, including cancer, thrive in low oxygen environments. So the more we can oxygenate the body and improve the oxygen utilization, the healthier the body is. We talked about supporting the terrain. And so then we're supporting immune system function. We're supporting the body's or ability to deal with the cancer. And we're creating an unfriendly environment for the cancer because disease doesn't like high oxygen because it's healthier for the surrounding cells. It's given in a multitude of different ways. So when I would see patients in person, I would do a blood treatment where you draw blood, you mix the blood with the ozone gas and re-inject it. But at home, people can do rectal. I used to do rectal in the clinic too. But you can very easily do rectal ozone, which is where you take just a soft silicone catheter, you put it up your pet's bum, and you just inject the ozone gas right into the colon, and then it absorbs systemically and is very therapeutic for any GI or abdominal lesions. It's a little weird, to get used to, but it can be very effective. And you can buy, there's a company called O3 Vets, and they sell a little kit, a little ozone generator kit for home use. It's around $800 or $900, which, if you think of how much it would cost to go into a clinic to be getting ozone therapy, if you can swing the upfront investment, it pays for itself very quickly. And you can do these rectal administrations of home, and you can do it more. Like usually traveling to a clinic, you might only get in a couple times a week. But if you have it at home, you can do it 4 or 5 times a week. And there's some respiratory therapies you can do at home. So I think that's a really great option because I really like to empower pet parents to do more for themselves at home. Not only does it help the pets, but he can also help create a more positive energy because it helps instill hope. And instead of sitting back, feeling hopeless, waiting for your pet to die, which is what people are sent home with on the conventional side, they could be doing something proactive. They're taking a part in the solution instead of just feeling so frustrated and hopeless.
Yeah. And I also think that stress plays a huge part, like it does for ourselves. And if they're in their own home environment, the pets are more relaxed and they're happier and they're not stressed from being at the vet clinic or wherever they are being treated. So that has so many benefits of it. You had also mentioned homeopathy. I use it here at home. I've used it with my kids since they were babies. For goodness, 30 years we've been using homeopathy. And I actually used homeopathy with my late pet that passed away last year towards the end. And it just was really helpful to help him with pain, that he was having. And so explain to individuals how homeopathy can help pets when they're ill, whether it's a cold or cancer.
So homeopathy is sort of a form of energetic medicine. So the way homeopathic remedies are made, they take an organic substance, such as, apis. These are for an example. Apis is used for allergies. So they actually take bee pollen and do a homeopathic dilution. So they make it very dilute. It's like 1 into 10,000 or 100,000. And the more dilute it is, the more potent it is energetically. It's a little backwards from when I first started learning it sound backwards. We could think about it logically, but energetically, they become more potent the more dilute they are. So there's no organic substance in there. In fact, the essence of that substance is there. And it uses the concept of like treats like. So you use a homeopathic version of a bee pollen, it's called apis, and that can help with allergy symptoms and it doesn't even have to be a bee sting. Any allergic reaction can respond to something like apis. And I know there's carcinosin, which is a popular one for cancer in general. And then different parts of the body, or depending on where the cancer is growing in the body, other remedies can also be helpful. It's also very constitutionally based, and mistletoe's a lot like that too, in that there are different forms of mistletoe. The mistletoe is harvested from different host trees. So there's pine and fir and apple and oak. And the constitution of a mistletoe varies with the host tree. And then the constitution of the mistletoe is matched up to the constitution of the patient. It's a little easier to do that in people because people can report in more detail what they're feeling. With pets, we are left with kind of monitoring their behavior, but we can still do it. And, I did use multiple types of mistletoe. So, I think homeopathy could be a great adjunct. I think the way I look at it is we have to approach it from many different angles. It's not just one thing. So we start with the nutritional base. And honestly, I feel strongly if you don't do that, you're kind of wasting your time with the other stuff. You're just not going to have good results. But then, we can do the ozone, the mistletoe. I do a lot of Chinese herbal medicine too. So the Chinese herbs, the homeopathy, they're all approaching the situation from a little different angle. And I do believe that there's an additive. And I also look at the individual pet. The majority of pets that I work with, probably, 98%, do well like mistletoe. Some don't tolerate the injections, or there's just some issue. They're just super sensitive to it. So we don't use that therapy. Some won't eat herbs in their food, just won't touch their food if we put herbs in. Well, it's more important that they're eating, so we don't do the herbs. So sometimes we do have to pick and choose based on what is resonating the best with the patient, and then we look at response to treatment. And that's another big difference in this approach as opposed to conventional approach, because conventional, you have your diagnosis, it's this type of tumor, it's this stage, and these stages and the naming of things is getting more and more detailed. And then there's a treatment plan that goes along with it. And they really treat the diagnosis, not the patient. I think we need to be treating the patient.
Exactly, 100%. Can you share a specific success story where integrative treatments made a significant difference in the health of a pet?
Sure. So there was one, I'll share a story about a kitty. This kitty came to me, had a bladder tumor removed. So she was completely blocked. She could not urinate. So I am not, by the way, an advocate for just lopping off tumors or even doing aspirates or biopsies. From my perspective, I really don't need to know exactly what it is. And I find that sometimes that can inflame the situation and make it worse. And surgical regrowth, remote after surgery, tends to be super aggressive and much harder to treat. So I usually like to avoid those if possible. This kitty had a complete urinary blockage, and she had to have surgery, or she would have to be euthanized. So they opted for the surgery. So I know going in, okay, chance of regrowth fairly high, but we started treating. They did the raw food diet. We were doing Chinese herbs, doing ozone, mistletoe injections. They were doing the works. It's a very, very diligent pet parent, really followed through with everything. And honestly, in a case like this, with the chance of regrowth being high, I would have thought, maybe we could give her 6 or 7 months. Well, we did a follow-up ultrasound at 6 months, and there was no sign of regrowth. Matter of fact, the radiologist could just kind of barely see the surgical scar where the tumor had been removed in the bladder. That kitty ended up living, I think I started working with her. She was already elderly, like 14 or 15 years old. And cancer never came back. And he lived to be, I think, 19 and died of other, age-related things. Cancer never came back. And that's a case where I even thought, gosh, I don't know how long we'll be able to help her. But there was never a recurrence of the cancer.
That's incredible. Incredible. And so what advice would you give to pet owners who are considering integrative medicine for their pets but aren't sure where to start?
That's a tricky one because there's not very many vets that really support that. I'm actually working, by the way, with, Uriel Pharmacy. You may know Uriel Pharmacy because that's where we buy our mistletoe from. They're the only distributor in the U.S. They have a foundation called Anthroposophy Foundation where they are educating human practitioners on anthroposophic medicine, which basically is what we've been talking about, mind, body, spirit medicine. They want to start the veterinary division, so I've started working with them, and I'm hoping, we can get some educational programs going so that more vets can become educated and feel confident in practicing this way, create some community and mentorship. But probably the best option right now is to go to the AHVMA. So that's the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association. That's our National Association of Holistic Vets. And they do have a vet finder. So you can put in your zip code and see if there's any members in your area. Other than that, it's word of mouth. You can do online searches. I've had a lot of people find me in Facebook groups. I don't spend any time on Facebook. I just don't really care for social media. And I've had a lot of people find me in the cancer groups. Like there's online community groups for different types of cancer, different health conditions. So you can go in there, just kind of word of mouth, see who you can find. But yeah, it's anybody that's, willing to lean that way even a little bit in practice. Really great idea to support them.
That's great. That's great. And we can put those links as well in our notes. And I know people are probably wondering, the cost difference. Is there one between integrative and conventional pet care? And how do you advise pet owners when navigating the costs?
If you're going in for standard exams and things, it probably isn't all that much more. It kind of depends on what you're getting. A lot of integrative practitioners, they want to do things like acupuncture. They want to do more things as part of the wellness exam, like do an acupuncture treatment or maybe do a chiropractic adjustment, because those things are really important to health. So that can increase the initial cost. My consults are more because I'm more specialized in what I do. But I think if you could just find a general practitioner that even if you find one that's just a little more open-minded, what I have found is that when my clients go in, because I do telemedicine, so all of my clients have to have a local vet. So when they find one that's a little more open and interested in learning, then that I'll even work with that veterinarian and help teach them. I've had a number reach out to me and ask me about my mistletoe protocols because their client comes in and says that they're doing mistletoe, and then they're curious about that. So if you can find somebody that's even a little bit more open-minded, that's a start. And I think encouraging veterinarians that kind of want to go that direction is really important. And, I suggest you might just have to pay for some office visits and go in and interview some vets in your area before you need them. Because when you need them and you're panicked and emotional because your pet's sick or hurt, you just want to get them taken care of. It's not the time to be running clinic to clinic to find one that's in alignment with the type of treatment you want. But I think if you go ahead of time or you call or you just pay for a basic office visit, whatever that is, say you want to do a pre-visit interview, maybe even take your pet in for an introduction, and just tell them, what your philosophies are, and just sit down and be honest. Just start with just an honest conversation and see where they stand. And if they say, nope, you can't walk in the door without a rabies shot, they're like, okay, I'm going on to the next clinic then. If you do that ahead of time, then you're not going to feel quite so flustered because, a lot of people just end up getting that shot because they just want their pet to get care. And I understand that, but, if you do the search ahead of time, none of us, we don't make good decisions when we're scared and emotional. So do that decision-making ahead of time, and then you'll feel more prepared. Know where the emergency clinics are. Where can you get 24-hour care if your pet is sick or hurt? So have a list of questions, and just go in, or maybe not with the phone. I'll just ask the receptionist, and you get a feel for it. And so you can meet the vet ahead of time. And if they're not open to that, then I probably wouldn't go in there.
That's great advice. Well, thank you, Dr. Judy, for joining us today. And we're so grateful for all of your insight in helping us make sure we take care of our pet friends really well. And so wish you all the best. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Arcarice, Development Director for Believe Big. As 2024 comes to a close, your generosity can make a life-changing difference for a cancer patient. At Believe Big, we empower patients and their families with significant resources and much-needed hope. Your donation today will help us provide essential care, education, and a community of strength for those in need. Together, we can help more people face, fight, and overcome cancer. Visit www.believebig.org and make your gift today. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support our podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Be sure to visit believebig.org to access the show notes and discover our bonus content. Thanks again, and keep believing big.